in Jigawa State, formerly part of Kano State. The Dangote Group is working with hundreds of farmers in the production of rice. Of course, the government's putting heavy duty on rice production. So we get back to local agricultural development. Let's bring in Engineer Mansour Ahmed, who is the Group Executive Director in charge of stakeholders engagement and corporate communications, public relations, if you want to put it that way, at Dangote Group. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much indeed.
Do you farm?
I don't directly farm, but my family does a lot of farming. Yes, that's right.
What type of products?
Both mixed, really, grains as well as animal husbandry. And by the way, my son also is now going into farming. He's doing poultry, he's doing fishery, so it is in the family.
So you could be having the fish from your son's farm on your dinner table?
I hope so indeed, yes.
very, very interesting about agriculture. Do you find it very fascinating?
It is indeed fascinating. And indeed, when you look back, and particularly those in my age, maybe not yours.
No. It's obvious I'm coming behind you.
You know, but it's really, really fascinating that this is an industry that has been the bedrock of the development of this nation for many, many years, and indeed for many other nations, which for some obscure reason we just sort of forgot about. But now we realize we made a mistake.
I agree with you. I spent the last weekend around the middle, around Kogi State, and I heard stories from my own state, once a part of it rich in coffee, and that millionaires were made in those days, in the 50s and 60s, and those coffee were gone. And I thought it's only in Rwanda, in Kenya, and Uganda that you get coffee. Never knew that in Nigeria we're very strong in coffee.
Up to today, there are potential for coffee growing in many areas in Nigeria, especially in Taraba State, in the Mambila Hills. We do coffee, and of course, up to today, tea is being produced in this country. Absolutely. And, you know, to me, when you look around, you see that agriculture is the most sustainable way of economic growth and economic development, and also the most inclusive, because it creates opportunities across the line, from the top to the bottom. You know?
Let's talk about rice now.
Yeah, sure.
Let's talk about rice. What is this stakeholder engagement all about with the rice farmers in Jigawa State? How much are you folks investing in that business?
Yes.
And
why?
What
we're doing in Jigawa is just the beginning of a huge program of the Dangote Group's investment plan in agriculture. We recognize, as indeed we have done in other sectors, that if Nigeria is to realize its potential as a leading nation in Africa and in the world, we really must focus on significant and massive investments to convert our basic natural resources through value addition investments into value and wealth creation. And agriculture provides the starting point. So having realized that, the Dangote Group, particularly led by Alhaji Aliko Dangote, as we all know, decided that over the next 5 years, we're going to turn our attention on agriculture, focus on investing in key areas of commodity development, especially those areas where Nigeria has been almost totally dependent on imports. Rice is one. I understand we've been importing something like over $2 billion worth of rice every year, and this is a commodity that grows almost across the country.
It does.
You know,
from Bayelsa State,
from Bayelsa State to Sokoto State, absolutely.
Yes.
Secondly, in sugar, and possibly subsequently in other commodities. But these are the two we're focusing on now, and our intention is that over the next 5 years, or a little more, we intend to invest something like $1 billion to grow massively rice farming and rice milling, so that we produce the parboiled rice that Nigerians love. Incidentally, everywhere in Africa, people eat other rice, not parboiled. So any rice that you see being imported into the West African countries is probably targeted for Nigeria. That's why there's this massive import. But we're also going into sugar. Again, this is an area that we're so dependent on imports, and yet we have capacity to grow and to add value to our own commodities.
You're putting about $1 billion
Yes.
into this agric investment. What are your expectations?
Our expectations are in various areas. First of all, to add value to the commodity and generate wealth and opportunities for development. Secondly, to create job opportunities. Our expectation is in that by the time we complete these investments in rice and sugar, we will be employing approximately 180,000 Nigerians across the various parts of the value chain, both in the milling and processing plants, as well as on the farms. Also, and this is very interesting, this is what we're doing, and this is what we actually launched in Jigawa State last week. We are not doing it alone. Yes, we will have our own large-scale commercial farms to actually grow the commodity for the processing, but we also want to create opportunities to work with ordinary farmers on an outgrower program that enables us to do three things. First of all, to transfer technology and knowledge and modern ways of farming to the ordinary farmers. And secondly, to provide ordinary Nigerian rice farmers with a market that guarantees them a minimum price. You know, on many occasions, when we introduce policies that are supposed to encourage production of basic agricultural commodities, we forget one thing. We forget that that policy is only sustainable if you do it across the market. Yes, people can produce, as we did in the past, large quantities of cassava. But if there's no market for them to sell that cassava, what will happen? They have large stocks, and next year they can't produce. So this time what we're doing, we will provide at least 30% of our processing capacity, if we are milling, for instance, to use outgrower paddy rice into the process. So we guarantee that. And we'll be helping them with inputs, good, appropriate fertilizer, technology in terms of how to do it, seeds, high quality, high yielding seeds. At the moment, Nigerian rice farmers are probably getting something like 2.5 to 3.5 tons per hectare, you know, based on their normal practices.
Activity.
But we're bringing seeds and technology that will increase that yield to at least 7 tons per hectare. That is essentially doubling the capacity of ordinary farmers to earn income. Because that's really what it does. You double your output, you double your yield, you double your income. And not only that, we will be able to provide opportunities for irrigation to these outgrowers that will enable them also to farm twice a year. Now, if you have been traveling around the northern part of the country in particular, what you'll notice is that during the rainy season, everybody is busy and happy. During the dry season, people have much less work to do. They obviously are not earning much income, and therefore they are not as happy. By creating opportunity for them to also farm during the dry season through effective irrigation facilities, you also create the opportunity for them to be busy. And one of the benefits of that, of course, is that the busier people are, the less they are available to make trouble.
Insecurity.
Absolutely.
I know where you're going. I know where you're going. I know what the corollary is.
Absolutely.
Because and the dry season could be really prolonged in the northern part.
Oh yes, oh absolutely.
Yeah, quite a really prolonged
Absolutely.
Period.
Yes.
And young folks especially, are idle for several months.
Absolutely. You know what happens from the villages and the rural areas? Once the harvest is home, the young people have no work. What do? They rush to the city.
And there's no income.
And then there's no income. They rush to the cities. They rush to the cities, looking for whatever they can do. Under the current circumstances, when the economy is in some sort of slump, there's not much work. So they become available for other people to use them in all sorts of...
give them some stipends,
Absolutely.
and say they go do some untoward things.
Absolutely.
We enjoy this conversation. You're talking about working with other farmers in other states of the Federation. Where were you also doing sugar very heavy around Kwara, Kogi State, isn't it?
Yeah, we're doing sugar. At the moment, we're focusing on about 3 states. Taraba and Adamawa. Adamawa, we already have a sugar plant, as you may know. Some years back, we took over the Savannah sugar plant, which was a government-owned thing that was not working. So we have restored it. It's now operating about 6,000 hectares of growing sugar farm, which will expand to its full capacity of about 30,000 within the next 2 to 3 years. But there are also other areas around Taraba where we are working with the state government to acquire additional land. So our expectation is that over the next 5 years, in Adamawa, in Taraba, in Kogi, in Kebbi, these are the core states, possibly in Kwara, we expect to open up at least 260,000 hectares for sugar development. That will enable us to crush 20 million tons of sugar every year and to produce 20 million tons of sugar cane and produce 2 million tons of sugar. To a large extent, if that does not eliminate sugar import into this country, it will reduce it significantly.
So it's getting to a point in which you having the same fish from your son, then you have the rice. You still eat rice?
Rice, yes, indeed.
Yes.
What we're doing of course, we all eat rice. Who doesn't? I think it's, not just in Nigeria. I think globally, rice has become the most common staple food in the world, actually. And so, really, producing rice for any nation has become a fundamental imperative. Because if you don't produce it, you would have to import it in massive quantities. Anyway, so what we're doing in rice is very much similar. Our expectation is to open up at least 150,000 hectares of rice farms across about 6 or 7 states. Jigawa is the starting point. But we're doing similar things in Sokoto. We're doing similar things in, I think, Edo State, and in Kogi, as we said, in Niger State, and I think in about 3 or 4 other states. So totally about 6 to 7 states for rice, about 3 to 4 states for sugar. And that's how the total investment of about $1 billion is coming in.
Okay, now so let me disclose that the reason why I was particular about Kogi State was because that's where I came from.
Oh, really? Okay. Thank you very much.
I've got to disclose that publicly.
You're absolutely right.
So just in case you're wondering, why do I keep mentioning Kogi State? So just in case when you get there, you might just see me next door.
Yeah, but Kogi is Dangote State as well.
Oh, really?
We have the largest cement plant in the world in Kogi State.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about that. Perhaps some other day we'll talk about that.
Anytime.
And thanks for that.
It will be a pleasure.
Coming through.
Thank
Our
you
engineer, Mansour Ahmed, Group Executive Director in charge of stakeholders, engagement and public communications at the Dangote Group. Talk about the rice and sugar business. We'll be right back after the break.